So let's start with MTN, which is now, in fact, in the first division of the world's mobile phone companies. 230 plus million customers. That's a lot. If you think about it, there are only 7 billion people on the planet, so it's like 1 in every 40 customers. 1 in every 40 humans is a customer of MTN. The big businesses, of course, we know are here in South Africa, where they're the number 2 provider. They're the number 1 with a plus 50% market share in Nigeria. And then in Iran, remember they got into Iran, interesting country, has its issues, but it has lots of young people and a population of nearly 90 million people. So it has an enormous addressable market. We're talking about those big 3, but of course they have businesses in Ghana and Swaziland and Syria and all sorts of other places, Cameroon. Market capitalization, 322.9 billion rand. So that puts it in the first division also in terms of market cap here in South Africa. Price to earnings ratio, 11.98. Dividend yield, very high, 7.31. Customers, or shareholders rather, have just had their recent June dividend, and those are pretty meaty. So, Grant, give us the overview. What do you guys at Nedbank feel about MTN? It's had a very spongy share price sag in the last couple of months, as you alluded to.
It has, but we think it's giving investors a great opportunity to get exposure to emerging markets, where there's still very low mobile penetration as well as smartphone penetration.
As you said,
so we're very comfortable with the investment case.
Well, let's just go back and talk about the reasons. So the share price chart, let's put it up here since we're talking about it. You can see it does very well, 2011, 12, 13, moving nicely higher up to the 250 thereabouts category. But a nasty slide, which corresponds both with the oil price coming off tail end of 2014 and then more recently with the worsening oil price and the beginnings of what looked like stress pressure in the June results, with revenue being flat, earnings being slightly off, lots of negative currency translations, the Naira weak. So what is going to happen in Nigeria, do you think? I mean, how much at risk are they, and what do you think the future subscriber growth up there is going to be?
We still think that there is risk, of course, depending on your view on the oil price. But I think if we can see oil stabilizing around the $50 barrel, we might see the Naira weakening to 220 versus the dollar. The spot price is currently 200. And I think even at 220, we are comfortable. If the Naira had to weaken substantially to 250, we would be a bit more concerned.
Because obviously they make money in Naira and then it gets converted back into Rand. So both the Rand and the Naira have been conking in against the dollar, but probably the Naira a little bit more, and that's the problem. Correct. So your view, though, is that if oil can just, trade at the same level for a few weeks, things might settle a bit.
Correct, and I think we need to watch the inflation numbers coming out of Nigeria if the Naira does continue to weaken, and the health of the Nigerian consumer, that will, of course, have a big knock-on effect.
Because, what I understand about Nigeria is that the federal government tax revenues largely come from oil, so they've got their own problems. But as far as the consumer economy in Nigeria is concerned, it's just a massive and growing population of people that are hungry to be on the hustle and to make progress in life. And one of the first things people do is invest in a cell phone in order to be in communication, to be in business, to be doing stuff. So even if the federal government's having a bad time, that doesn't necessarily mean that MTN Nigeria is going down the drain. It'll continue to do fine, it seems to me.
Yes, to a lesser extent, but I think that's the investment case, and therein lies the opportunity for MTN in Nigeria.
Let's shift gears and talk about Iran, because we know that there's that process. It looks as though the deal is going to get done because the US Senate is going to vote, not to block the deal from US's side. All of the European countries are keen. The Iranians are happy to be reintegrated in the global economy. So is it correct? One can be optimistic about that. And in general, it looks as though MTN Iran cell is going to be able to be taking its place in MTN's financial structure.
Correct. I think you can definitely be positive on those outcomes. I saw that even Colin Powell came out in support of the deal. And what does this mean for MTN? There's 1.1 billion US dollars that they could repatriate. But I think interestingly enough, we're definitely going to see the Iranian economy, as you mentioned earlier, doing tremendously well.
That's good. I like that. So in other words, it's not just about the money being sort of stuck somewhere, because at the end of the day, it's an early stage business. It needs more investment, if anything. So it's more about whether the Iranian economy will pick up because there'll be trade going on. They'll be able to be foreign investment, more jobs, more activities and opportunities for young people.
And I definitely think that could happen.
Yeah.
Growth at the moment is just below 2%, and I think we could see that shoot up to 4%.
Okay, let's bring it all the way home to South Africa, because of course we're talking big three. MTN's position in South Africa, I don't know, there have been shifts in market share. So Vodacom does well for a while, Cell C grabs a bit of market share, then falls in its face again.
Correct.
MTN just kind of solid second tier position. Anything that worries you about that? There's a bit of a fight going on with some of their franchisees or something, I noticed. I don't know what that's about.
Correct. I think on the local front, competition is quite tough.
Yeah.
But I also think you're facing a saturated market, which does make it really difficult in the local market. They also dropped the ball with their handset sales throughout the year. So I think if they could turn that around, there could be a bit of upside on the local front.
Because I'm an MTN subscriber, obviously, and I renewed my package because I wanted a new iPhone. That all went well. I needed to renew my data package. Interesting. So my own spend, I've got a regular package. I'm using plenty of things. I don't make any voice calls, really. But I've been buying data supplementary packages because when I travel, I want to be able to use the LTE network. I mean, it's lucky you live in an area like this that has LTE, but my appetite for buying more data is just about unlimited. You know, it's, I don't know if I'm representative of their customers, but it's a great business for them because the network is in place and now is an opportunity to upsell people to higher and higher data packages.
Correct. But they will, I think they'll continue to invest in their local infrastructure for this data rollout. And interestingly enough, the average use for smartphone is about 400 megabytes a month, which is up 25% year on year. So I definitely think it's a trend we'll continue.
And the idea that data is like a commodity and that people would just be in a race to zero, I don't think that's borne out, because if you use your phone connection to browse or to connect to your computer, people know if the network's bad. And they know not to go and join an unnamed network that has a horrible network that doesn't work all that well. They know. I mean, you know, people are mindful of what towers are available in that area, and they are prepared to pay the rates for data, and they're prepared to use, and they're loyal to networks that work for them, is my sense.
I would agree with you. I mean, it's an integral part of our lives these days.
And
your
getting more
tablet
so.
and your PC.
Okay, so what we're saying is that share price chart, it looks pretty ropey, and we own some of these in our hot stocks portfolio because it's long been my favorite in this space. So you reckon it's hot right now and we ought to be seeing and treating this move below 200 as a buying opportunity?
Below 180, I definitely think it's giving you a good opportunity, so I'm very happy to say it's hot.
Okay, good, and I'm hot too, obviously.